Emily, so good to see you again. Welcome back to Popternative.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you too.
I'm excited to chat with you about Wish Swap, going to be on Hallmark Channel. It's really cool because, like, when people see kind of the trailer that has been released on Instagram from Hallmark, pretty cool concept. So I'm wondering what was going through your mind when you got the script and the breakdowns for this, because it's kind of a unique story. I enjoyed it. It was like, wow, this is cool. Like, I said that
That
out loud when I saw the trailer. Like, I said that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's absolutely what was going through my mind. The premise was so unique and it was so cute. Like it was just one of those things where I read it and I'm like, "Oh, this is different.
Yeah.
This will be a challenge. I'm gonna have to learn a bunch of dances and learn to work on a farm and all the things." And you're like, "Okay, yeah, sign me up."
Is there kind of one of those, like, in terms of preparation, because that was actually one of my questions, is the dance component, there's the farm component. Are there like separate days of like discussions about that kind of aspect of it and like dance lessons before filming? Or is it kind of just you're thrown in and like there might be a little dance lesson here and like a little like tractor ride here? Like,
Yeah, a little bit of both.
okay.
I was very lucky to have worked with our director, David Strasser, earlier last year on a movie called All I Need for Christmas. So
Yes.
when this came up, the opportunity to work with him again, I was so excited. And we hopped on and had a meeting. And, as far as the farm stuff, I just said, hey, I love animals. So whatever you want to put in there, any way that I could be hanging out with animals on set, I'm down. So lots of like, all of a sudden I'm in a goat pen surrounded by 20 goats and I'm having the time of my life, which was so fun and not in the script originally. So that's fun. It was really collaborative there. And as far as the dance stuff, it's interesting. The concept is that we go on this show, Dance Your Heart Out, which is regular people on a dance reality show.
Yeah.
So by no means am I supposed to be a professional dancer, but you still want to do a good job. And this is Casey's wish. This is her dream to be on this show. So David and I talked a little bit about like what the level needed to be. And as far as rehearsals and things like that, we had two.
Mm.
We had 2 hour long rehearsals before we got to set. And then I had the best co-star, Jake Foy. He got to dance rehearsals and like immediately we're in the waltz position. And he just looked at me and he's like, I got you. He has a musical theater background, so he was an excellent dance partner who had to play that he didn't know what he was doing, but he did in fact know what he was doing. So I was very lucky. And on set, because of our limited rehearsal time, Jake and I would just other days when we weren't dancing be off in a corner learning our dances and really trying to nail it because all of the dance stuff actually took place on the last day of filming.
Absolutely. No, it's crazy. And like when you officially get this like the script for it, because I know how it works. Sometimes maybe you'll get sides and then like you at some point you would get like the full script and like, okay, right, it's go time, right? But like what is that script to screen journey with Wish Swap specifically? Well, like what's it like it might change depending on the project, but specifically script to screen for this. Like what was it like reading it, seeing it come to life on screen as you started filming it?
Oh, well, I mean, it was so exciting. Like walking in and like seeing the Dance Your Heart Out set. It's amazing to see what set deck does. It's amazing to see what our DP Cody was doing. Like everything just looked so beautiful. And, being on the farm and being with the animals, you read it on the page, it's a whole nother thing to be in it. And as far as the dialogue and everything, our producers, Michael Barbuto and David, again, were really open to anything that didn't quite feel right, that we could all find it together. So we were able to maneuver. And, Betsy Morris wrote a beautiful story. And I think we really found the heart in it.
Beginning of this interview, I told you like when I saw the trailers for it, I was like, oh, this is a pretty unique concept for like a rom-com and everything in a Hallmark film. And I'm wondering, I feel like the answer to this question is you try not to, Emily, but I'm wondering, given kind of like how in this film there's also a lot of kind of like heartfelt moments and like moments where it's like surprises and some like reactions and everything. Are you ever conscious of the audience member watching Wish Swap while you're making it? Or is that something that kind of happens a little bit after you wrap, so to speak?
That's a really interesting question. I don't think so. I don't think when I'm actually filming and acting that I'm ever thinking about um, the audience. Oh, that's tricky because when it's comedy, for sure you're finding your beats and your moments and your looks.
Mr.
But
Young, you're thinking about the audience the whole time because the audience is literally there, but that's a horrible
well,
example.
Exactly. I would like to think that I drop in so
Yeah.
that when I'm actually doing the scene, I'm not thinking about it, but that I've done my work to know that what comes out is going to play on the screen. I would say the dance, I was more conscious of that because I'm less comfortable in that field than I am acting.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting because it's all storytelling at the end of the day, right? But we talked about it like you were in like one of my favorite horror films, like out there in the last 5 years of Influencer on Shudder. How separate are past projects compared to something like this? Like I do know it's very different roles and very different worlds, but it's all storytelling at the end of the day. So I'm wondering if like you bring kind of past mindsets or preparations from something like that to something like this, or they completely separate once you wrap them specifically.
Say that I have a very similar, I guess, process for like learning lines and things like that. But there's such different projects tonally, and understanding that is a whole different thing. A Hallmark can lend itself to a broader performance, which I really enjoy. Obviously, coming from Mr. Young, doing these rom-coms are kind of my closest thing to that type of comedy. So I get to have a little bit more fun with that. And then doing something like Influencer, which is much more grounded, and it's a whole different experience. But I would say my prep work is pretty similar.
Yep.
It's just understanding the tone of what it is you're working on.
Mhm. Last year was a big year for Emily Tennant. You have Influencer that drops, and you have, Holiday Hotline that does really well on Hallmark, and it was the talk of the town. Like people love that movie. I'm on the groups, the Facebook groups. People really enjoyed your performance in that film.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice to hear.
so I'm wondering when you work on things like that, that are, two different projects, but different projects that have incredible teams attached to him, and it's just kind of a well-oiled machine once you get in production. Does your kind of like behind the camera like hat like come to play a little bit? Like maybe you want to write, produce, direct, like when you're on things like that? Because I'm talking about like Influencer had a really good crew and it was amazing, and you went to Thailand, I believe, and then Holiday Hotline, it's Hallmark, right? It's amazing, it's great crew, it's a machine. So I'm just wondering if you think about that aspect of it, or is acting the main thing you're kind of focused on?
Acting is for sure the main thing I'm focused on right now. However, it is so inspiring to see, teams like the Influencer team, where it's just this small group of people traveling around Thailand making this beautiful, very cool film. And then, you go to a Hallmark set, it's 100 people, and it is a well-oiled machine, and it's a whole different beast. And I'm watching, people like Crystal Lowe, who's navigated going from the acting side to the directing side, and it's really inspiring. And even David, our director on this, talked to me a lot about the behind the scenes, because he was like, "You strike me as someone who might be interested in this one day." And I haven't dabbled yet, but I do think it's really, I am curious. I am curious, and I really love what we do. So it'd be cool to see it from a different angle.
Is it really cool to have worked? It's funny because I feel like last time you came on the show, it was like I have to look back, but it was like we were talking about Influencer, but I think it was like before like Halloween. So it was really before like it got like, because it was out, but it was like it got crazy around Halloween, that movie. Like I remember, I feel like I had something to do with it because I was telling a lot of people to watch it. But
I bet you did. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. But like, so it was like crazy, right? Like when it came out, and like you were in a film at a time where like there is such a big appetite for that content right now. Like the horror movie space is nuts right now. Like what's that like for you specifically?
Oh, I love it. I would love to do more horror films.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it's such a fun genre. And again, the fans are so supportive. And I often think they're more willing to see maybe, unknowns or lesser known actors. I don't know what that is in the horror genre, but I love it. And I think it just opens up the doors and opportunities for so many people. And so, yeah, I love that there's an appetite for it. I hope to do more in my future. I really adore working on, I love the juxtaposition too
Open
of being.
24 hours was also so good. No one ever talks about that. Watch Open 24 hours. I gotta go see if it's still on Shutter. Because it was
Oh my
funny
God.
because I remember watching that and being like, oh my goodness, Emily Tennant, yes, from Mr. Young. And that was the thing. And then like That movie was so good, but no one knows about that movie.
Yeah, that was a really fun one. We filmed that in Serbia.
Mhm.
Um, God, 2017, I
Yeah,
think.
it was a while ago. It was before the pandemic for sure. But
A
I
while
watched
ago.
it like 20. I want to say I watched it during the pandemic, and I was like, this is like so good. This is my type. It gets gory though in that movie.
A lot more blood in that one for sure. You have
Yeah.
to be into that.
I forgot about that for a second because you're like, I love horror movies. And I was like, influence. I was like, oh shit, over 24 hours. Forgot about that one. So
Oh.
good. Um, I'm curious whether you've been on a set one time or hundreds of times, you're always going to learn something new that you're going to be able to take to future projects. I just realized that your answer for Wish Swap is very obvious, that the dancing is something that you learned. So I'm hoping that you have others, but I'm just wondering, were there other kind of like storytelling, like learning experiences that you'll be able to take from Wish Swap to future projects besides the dancing? I just realized
Um,
if I just didn't say that, you would have been like the dancing. I'd be like, yeah, we just talked about that.
the dancing for sure, stretching a different muscle, so to speak. What did I learn from Wish Swap? I will
It's like,
just say that I learned our, again, I'm going to shout out our director, David Strasser. He has such a positive energy and it's so infectious. And I just learned a lot from him as a leader. I
mhm.
think showing up to set and bringing that energy affects everyone around you. This is one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on because of how much fun we had on set. And I really think that'll translate to the screen. So I would say that's what I learned from this one.
Absolutely. And I can't wait for people to tune in on the Hallmark Channel for Wish Swap, starring Emily Tennant and shout out to Jake Foy. Gotta get a Jake Foy question in there. You brought it up. Are there any like conversations with him specifically about specific scenes in this film, like about like the farming scenes or the dancing scenes, or is it kind of just like, you talk a little bit and then you just rock it? Like, are there a lot of conversations with him while you're filming?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of conversations. Jake and I worked really well together and I love his brain. He's just so analytical and he just comes from a different background than I do. So he had a lot of thoughts on scenes and so did I, and just getting to collaborate on that was really fun. We were always running lines. These movies move so fast. You
Mhm.
have to be ready to go. So we just worked really well, and yeah, we were always discussing scenes, how we can make them better, how again, the dancing, all of it. We were never not rehearsing or talking about scenes. Yeah.
Absolutely. February 8th on Hallmark Channel, Wish Swap. They can check that out. And then if you want horror movies, go catch Emily Tennant in Influencer and Open 24 Hours, because those are also really good as well. Emily, so great catching up with you. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Your Instagram account is just your name, right? Or Emily J. Tennant if people want to keep updated with everything.
Yes, Emily J. Tennant, and that's the only thing I'm on.
Awesome. Well, this has been Pop Turn at youtube.com/Pop Turn for previous episodes. Until next time, it's Emily Tennant and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.